Welcome, world. My name's Andrew Hare.
And my name is Brooke Tawabi.
And we're coming to you from Hard Left Media to bring you the show where you can talk about issues that are really relevant to you. And what we're doing, baby, is we're chopping it up. So let me give you a little intro about myself so you know who you're dealing with, who you're talking to, and what type of ways you can really express yourself here. I come from Chicago, Illinois, native. You know what I'm saying? I've lived in Mississippi majority of my teenage years, and now I'm living in the cold state of Iowa. And I've seen so much in my lifetime that I love to express it, and my friend here gave me the opportunity to do so. So let me let him introduce himself so we can get to this topic.
All right, and like I said, my name is Brooke Tawabi. I am 25 years old. I am a student. I'm from Ethiopia, but came here to the United States when I was 2 years old. I'm a student. I have a big family here.
I'm going to let Brooks tell you why we're so much different from corporate media and that why we call ourselves independent media. So go ahead and take that, Brooks, and expound upon that for us.
All right. Well, first of all, I'll state the obvious. We are independent media, and you can tell because we're in my house. We don't have fancy equipment
To start.
At least not yet. That's right. We don't have big corporate backers. But the main thing that I want to show a stark difference between is that corporate media are beholden to the corporations that they advertise for, and that affects their news. That affects how they cover the news, and sometimes, well, a lot of the times, the corporate backers don't want you to cover certain topics that make them look bad. I mean, they all say that they are neutral and objective, but we already know, especially in this past election, we already know that the newscast people and the anchors, they turn from journalists to cheerleaders. So we want to allow more and more people to voice their opinion.
We just want our opinions to be expressed, and we also want the common man's opinions to be expressed as well. So let me ask you this, Brooks. Do you think that corporate media takes censorship as deep as the federal government does? So what I'm asking you is you know, the FCC, I think they're called,
FCC, yep,
has guidelines on how you're supposed to have a format for any show, radio, TV that you do. Do you think that corporations take that same censorship and make it even more deeper where they get to say what you say before it even goes to the FCC?
I think so, absolutely.
Okay.
But it's not even, see, on the FCC regulations, you can actually cuss. You can actually say vulgar things.
Okay.
You can, they really don't really control what you say. It's more regulations as far as how it's transmitted,
Right,
and the codes and stuff. But when it comes to corporate media, they take it to a whole nother level.
Okay.
This whole, politically correct shit. It kind of perverted the authenticity that you look for when you go to watch mainstream media or CNN, MSNBC, or even on Wall Street Journal. They are so afraid to offend anybody that they would much rather tell you the story in a perverted way that makes them, by perverted I don't mean like a pedophile perverted, I mean like they taint it, and
they taint it is a better word, I would think.
Authentic.
It's not true. It's not pure.
Yeah, it's not pure.
Okay.
And in the 50s and the 60s, people
Open expression.
They had open expression in the 50s and 60s, but not on TV. Especially during the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And the segregation in the South and all that stuff.
Sure.
They didn't want anybody expressing themselves.
Okay.
Now that we have the power of the internet, now that we have technology that's more accessible and more
far-reaching, right?
Affordable, and it's far-reaching. That's right. You can really see the real stark difference between corporate and independent media, And like I said, especially in this last election, it was just a shame.
Okay. So here we go. We've given you why we're independent, why we like being independent, opposed to getting with a corporation and letting them control what we say, do, and express.
That's right.
So for our first topic today, what we want to do is come to you with something that we've seen in our lifetimes, both of us. Now, he told you he's 25, I'm 44. And in our times together, we have seen the topic of our discussion, a lot of social segregation. Now, I'm going to start off by saying that I have noticed that not only history, but just as present time goes, segregation has not really died down as much as people say. They've hidden it, they did undercover stuff with it, but they never out front about it. I've walked in a club before, and if it's a white club and I'm the black guy, then I get weird stares the whole time I'm in the club. And it's almost like they're saying in their minds from their eyes, what is this black guy doing in this club with white people? Is because, and the reason I say that, I want people to identify with this. I don't see when a strange person steps inside a new atmosphere that everybody's coming up, hey man, how you doing? Welcome to the club, you know? Back in the day, it was more like that. If you came to a strange person's house, hey man, welcome to my party, blah, blah, blah. Let me introduce you to this guy, this guy, this guy. Nowadays, you step out in a club, you go to the library, a restaurant, you go to a meeting. You don't see everybody trying to sit together, intermix different ethnic backgrounds. If there are a lot of different ethnic backgrounds there, what you see, just like in that club and in that restaurant, that unless you come in there as a, say, interracial couple or something, all the white people sit at this particular part of the restaurant. Now, I've noticed that in a restaurant, most of the time, the black people get pushed back to the little, what is it? The little bars, or not the little bars.
Booths or something?
The booths.
Really?
Yes, I have. I'm talking about, it's white people all around. There's a few black people in the front, a few, but towards the front, it's all white people. Towards the very back, that's where they said.
So you're saying that the host, whoever is seating the people, consciously or subconsciously put the melanated people in the back.
Correct. I like his term. The more melanated, the more you're going towards the back of the bus. Remember that.
Do you think she did that consciously? Do you think she did that on purpose? Or do you think it's a subconscious thing? Because I don't think people consciously do it. I think it's a subconscious cultural type of thing. They don't even pick up on some of the biases that they have.
Okay. You know what I think? It's not that they're doing it consciously, but you got to think about like a corporation controls media of what they're doing. A business like a restaurant pretty much influences their employees to know, okay, I want these people that look good, dress good, talk good. They're not loud. They're not abrasive. They don't curse. Put them towards the front because we want more people seeing those people than people that's all loud and talking about who you broke up with last night, who stole what from who, and who's the bad guy and the good guy. Because we understand that most minorities want to express themselves in any environment. So the thing is, I think unconsciously and consciously they're doing it because they know what they're doing. It's not like they can't look in the restaurant after they seated everybody and see the difference of color placed throughout that restaurant. But now, see, I've been in places like bars, and we're talking about social segregation. So I want you to see what I mean when I say that. I go in a bar and all the white people, again, and we're not being racist. I want to make that clear from the door. I'm just pointing out something that's a complete fact. And eventually we're going to take this out and show you what we mean. We're going to go to clubs and restaurants, and we're going to go back to this social segregation, and we're going to show you exactly how we figured it out. We didn't just make this up in our minds. We saw it for ourselves. Matter of fact, Brooks going to give a personal testimony himself or of an incident, and I'm going to let him get to that in a second. But let me say this. Black people, when they get around each other, we have so much hate in us from other situations that when we get around each other, we let that just feed whatever else is wrong. So if we got a problem with this guy at the club, then we take that out at the club because we can't do it at home. We can't do it at work. So anyway, we go to that bar, or I go to that bar, and I'm seeing white people all around, but I've seen this. I'll walk in there. I might not be the only black person in there, but you can tell a black person that has not been accepted by society yet as being able to talk, joke, play along with everybody else, because that black person is generally sitting at a table by himself or standing off to the side instead of congregating with the rest of the white people there, because he's not being accepted yet. He's not being introduced. He's not being shown what we call shown any love. So he stands off to himself the whole night until somebody, maybe drunk, is gonna come up and be like, "Hey, my buddy, how you doing, God?" Black people do not like that. We do not want you to touch us until we know you, because we don't want to misinterpret things that you do like drunk white people do. So off that, I want anybody that has a response to that to hit us up with the email. We're going to give all types of information where you can send in your comments about what we're talking about as a subject. So remember, this is chopping it up. We want your say so too. So
there's one thing that I also want to touch on from a macro level, from the big picture level.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at large cities such as Chicago, and
New York,
Detroit, New York, St. Louis,
California,
LA, and all of San Antonio, those large cities have sections, or what do they call ghettos?
Ghettos.
Where they have the low income people living in a certain part of the area.
Correct.
And then they have, you know, the rich people living on, you know, the northern part of the area. They have it zoned off.
Correct. They do.
And it's kind of at the big picture, that's in itself social segregation, because they keep all the. But I don't want to say the racial social segregation. It's more like economic segregation.
It's economic and racial social.
It could be, because most people who are melanated, who are Black, Latino, or foreign, they don't have as much money. They don't have that generational wealth. So they kind of section them off. And in those sectioned off areas where it's that they have the worst housing,
the worst streets, the worst schools.
The crime is bad. And I think that's intentionally done to try to keep the low income people, because, you know, by nature, if you're, I think, in my opinion, if you're, you know, don't have as much money, you're more apt to want to rob somebody. You're more apt to want to rob somebody.
It's a survival instinct.
It's a survival instinct. So they're trying to, on a macro level, segregate those people. And obviously it didn't work, because so much death and destruction. And I think they ripped down all those.
They rip them down all the time. They have them built up. Public housing is what they call it for the low income people.
Right, public housing.
They give them something to keep them separated. But a lot of people don't realize that if you're in a public housing, they've given you low income to pay so that you can try to raise yourself up. Now, really what we want you to do is we want those comments coming in as quick as the next show, as frequently as possible. I want Brooks to tell his story now. So tell me your story, Brooks, about when you went in this particular restaurant or something.
This girl invited me over. It's a bar.
Where at?
In Iowa City. Here in Iowa City.
Okay.
And I walked in there, and obviously, you know, it wasn't necessarily geared for
Minorities.
diverse city.
Diverse.
Okay? I mean, Iowa City is a very diverse area.
I've seen it. Yes, it is.
But that particular bar was not meant for that diversity. They were playing country. I like country music, but they were playing country music. They were the people there. They had the big old, the big old boots on, and the big ass cowboy hats.
Sure.
They were playing some, some
honky tonk music.
Yeah, something like that. And so, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I was just there to meet this girl and have a good time. But when I walked in, just the energy kind of changed, and I can kind of feel it kind of changing, because a lot of people, I mean, they're not used to having black people in there. First of all. So when they saw me, they like pretty much broke their necks and were looking at me up and down, and like I can tell like their micro expressions and their body language was like, what is he? Who is he? He's never been here before. What is he doing here?
Let me stop you for a second, Brooks. So, do you think that it was because they were playing country and you were black, and they didn't think that you really should be able to identify with the music and the genre that was going on at the moment? Yeah. Or was it just because you were black and walking up in there, period?
In my humble opinion, I think it had to do with the fact that they didn't think that I fit in. They didn't think that I would like that atmosphere.
Right.
They didn't think that I was, like it was like a black sheep in a...
Right. I understand, in the fold. Sure.
Yeah, and to me, I think that was part of it. I don't think it was necessarily because I was black necessarily, because there's a lot of black people here in Iowa City.
Right.
It was just has to do with, I don't think that they thought that I would like feel connected with them. But obviously I felt like they were like, he's not gonna like us. He's not gonna fit in with us. What is he doing here? There are no other black people here. What is he doing? Oh, he must be with a white girl or something. I mean, she was white. I mean, I don't lie.
Right.
But that's just how it felt. I'm not saying that that's what it was, and there's nothing against that establishment and the people who go there often, but that's just how it felt. And I feel like that time to time here, but I'm a confident kind of guy, so I really don't give a shit that much.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions then, because I want people to see how you really were segregated at that particular event. So here are two questions that I got for you. One, besides that person that invited you to come out, how many white people spoke to you?
A waitress.
Okay, she got to.
Well, she has to, but nobody.
Okay.
I walked up to the bar, spoke to the waitress, got my drink, and just sat there waiting for the girl to come.
How long did you have to wait for the waitress before you even got to speak to her, tell her what you wanted?
It was pretty busy, so I'm not gonna.
Okay, no, but that's not the point of asking the question. How long did you have to wait before you got served where you could even talk?
15 minutes.
Okay, now it's busy in a bar. We all know that, especially on a good night, and especially what you said was going on. There's plenty of people there that like that type of genre. But remember what I was telling you about a stranger coming into a new household or like a party? I've been to house parties, and I'm telling you and I'm telling him that when I go to a house party, I make myself known that I want people to socialize with me, whether they like it or not. So I push myself on them to make them relax. And if they don't relax, then we take it to another level. But I want them to feel comfortable with me being a black man in their environment. Just like I want a white person to come in my environment and feel at ease, not that we're gonna start saying racist comments to them on the slick even, but that we're going to make them feel like they're one of the group. We're introducing them to make them feel like that. And you'll notice that a lot of black people actually bring white people to their events. But even with interracial dating, unless that white person in that interracial date has already been hanging around a bunch of black people, they will not take that minority to a white convention, a white party. They always have an excuse. Now, there are certain instances where that's not true. There are instances where the black person already knows a couple of white people, and So he can go in there and those few white people will come and speak to him. But we're not talking about a few. We're talking about the whole party making this man feel welcome. And if we can't make each other feel welcome in this world, then we should just go back to being at war and decide who's going to run what. But so I hope y'all felt what we were talking about with social segregation. And yeah, we only had so much time this time to bring up a couple of instances, but you're more than welcome to tell us some of your instances, and we'll talk about those too next time we come back. So you all keep paying attention. Remember, we want to chop it up with you. You feel what I'm saying? And we want you to chop it back with us. So this is Brooks and Andrew hollering at you till next time. Be ready to chop it up some more.